Welcome students to the series of lectures on corporate law. Now in this regard, today we are going to discuss a very important topic, that's the global depository receipt, which are popularly known as GDRs. Now after you have heard me, you should be in a position to understand what is a GDR, what are the features of a GDR, how are GDRs issued, what are advantages and disadvantages of GDRs, what are the legal guidelines for issuance of GDRs. Now you should be also in a position to understand the status of GDRs in Indian market. And you should be also in a position to understand the difference between the GDR and ADR, which is very important because ADRs are also highly important in the financial world. And which are the important companies in India which have issued GDRs. Now first of all, let us start with what is a GDR. Global Depository Receipt, as is popularly known, is a foreign currency denominated negotiable instrument. Any company can trade their shares on international exchanges other than the US through a GDR. A foreign depository, usually a bank, issues the depository receipt for the company. The depository receipt is traded like shares on the domestic exchange of that country. As such, investors in that foreign country can buy and sell just like they do in case of shares. The depository bank is an intermediary who acts as the custodian of shares in the foreign country. Thus, GDRs help companies get access to funds. For example, let us consider Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, which is a very famous company in the Indian markets. The company wants to issue its shares in Japan. TCS has to deposit a substantial number of shares with any bank in Japan. The Japanese bank will then issue a receipt against the shares. Therefore, every receipt given by the bank in Japan represents a particular number of shares of the company. Now, what are the features of GDR? They are negotiable financial instruments. These instruments trade on the stock exchanges like any other security. Companies can get access to foreign funds through GDRs. This is one of the very important features. However, only companies with a sound financial record of last 3 years can, for the issuance of GDRs. Thus, to obtain GDRs, Indian companies should get clearance from Foreign Investment Promotion Board, popularly known as FIPB. So you have to get the clearance from this board, only then you can issue GDRs. And the depository bank can convert the GDRs into shares and trade them on the domestic stock market. These receipts are foreign currency denominated instruments. However, the shares are denominated in the local currency of the foreign country. The foreign investors get dividend and bonus shares of the underlying global depository receipts. Now, how are GDRs issued? This is very important. How are they issued? Following is the process of issuing global depository receipts. Companies issue their equity shares in Indian rupees to an overseas depository bank through a domestic custodian bank. Meaning you should have a bank over here in India and then another bank in that foreign country in which you are going to issue them. The local custodian bank then acts as the overseas depository bank's agent and holds the equity shares in its possession. The overseas depository bank, that's the foreign bank, then provides GDRs in foreign currency. The bank then converts the GDRs into shares to trade on that country's stock exchange. Thus, the foreign country's investors can buy and sell the GDRs embedded with shares, just as they do in other domestic financial securities. First of all, the company issuing GDRs hand over its shares to some domestic custodian bank, which is called as DCB. Then The DCB requests some overseas depository bank, which is called as ODB, Overseas Depository Bank, situated in a foreign country for issuing the shares as GDRs. The ODB, which is Overseas Bank, converts the shares into GDRs, denominated in US dollars. In the end, ODB issue them to the intending investors. Now, this is the process. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of GDRs? GDRs help in international companies reach a broader, more diverse audience of potential investors. This is very important for companies that they should have foreign investors as well. They can potentially increase share liquidity, because if you have more shares, the liquidity increases. This is obvious. Companies can conduct an efficient and cost-effective private offering. Shares listed on major global exchanges can increase the status or legitimacy of an otherwise unknown foreign company. For investors, GDRs provide the opportunity to diversify portfolios internationally. GDRs are more convenient and less expensive than opening foreign brokerage accounts and purchasing stocks in foreign markets. Investors don't have to pay cross-border custody or safekeeping charges. GDRs trade, clear, and settle according to the investor's domestic process and procedures. US holders of GDRs realize any dividends and capital gains in US dollars. After we have spoken about the advantages, we come to the disadvantages. GDRs have also disadvantages. GDRs have significant administrative fees. Dividend payments are net of currency conversion expenses and foreign taxes. The depository bank automatically withholds the amount necessary to cover the expenses and foreign taxes. US investors may need to seek a credit from the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, or a refund from the foreign government's taxing authority to avoid double taxation on capital gains realized. This is a very big disadvantage. GDRs have the potential to have low liquidity, making them difficult to sell. In addition to liquidity risk, they can have currency risk and political risk as well. At times, the two countries may not be having good relations, so political risk is also there. This means that the value of GDR could fluctuate according to actual events in the foreign country, such as recession, financial collapse, or political upheaval. Let us exemplify a GDR. One example of a GDR is the American Oil and Gas Company, Phillips 66, which is listed at New York Stock Exchange. It's a gas company. Now, in addition to trading domestically, because these shares are listed at New York Stock Exchange, so they are trading it domestically. This company has depository receipts listed on exchanges in Brazil, France, Vienna, and London, among others. Companies Issue of Global Depository Receipts Rules 2014. Now, see, these are the rules which are governing the issue of GDRs. Number one, in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 41, read with Section 469 of the Companies Act 2013, the central government hereby makes the following rules. Short title and commencement. These rules may be called Companies Issue of Global Depository Rules 2014. They shall come into force on the first day of April 2014. So, GDR rules are applicable from 1st of April 2014. Now, eligibility to issue depository receipts. Now, dear students, you have to understand what are the eligibilities for issue of GDRs. A company may issue depository receipts provided it is eligible to do so in terms of the scheme and relevant provisions of the Foreign Exchange Management Rules and Regulations, which are called as FEMA Act. Conditions for issue of depository receipts. The following conditions need to be fulfilled. Number one, the board of directors of the company intending to issue depository receipts shall pass a resolution authorizing the company to do so. Another is, the company shall take prior approval of its shareholders by a special resolution to be passed at a general meeting. So you can have an AGM, annual general meeting, and pass the resolution. Another, provided that the special resolution passed under Section 62 for the issuance of shares underlying the depository receipts shall be deemed to be a special resolution for the purpose of Section 41 as well. The depository receipts shall be issued by an overseas depository bank appointed by the company, and the underlying shares shall be kept in the custody of a domestic custodian bank. So here, first of all, we keep the shares with a domestic custodian bank. The another is, the company shall ensure that all the applicable provisions of the scheme and the rules or regulations or guidelines issued by the Reserve Bank of India are compiled with before and after the issue of depository receipts. So the role of RBI is here. The company shall appoint a merchant banker or a practicing chartered accountant or a practicing cost accountant or a practicing company secretary to oversee all the compliances relating to the issue of depository receipts, and the compliance report taken from such merchant banker or practicing chartered accountant or practicing cost accountant or practicing company secretary, as the case may be, shall be placed at the meeting of the board of directors of the company or of the committee of the board of directors authorized by the board in this regard, to be held immediately after the closure of all formalities of the issue of depository receipts. Provided that the company of the board of directors referred to above shall at least one independent director, in case the company is required to have independent directors. Another important topic you must understand is the manner which has to be adopted for the issuance of depository receipts. The depository receipts, number one, can be issued by way of public offering or private placement or in any other manner prevalent abroad, and may be listed or traded in an overseas listing or trading platform. Number two, the depository receipts must be issued against the issue of new shares or may be sponsored against shares held by shareholders of the company in accordance with such conditions as the central government or Reserve Bank of India may prescribe or specify from time to time. The third is that the underlying shares shall be allotted in the name of overseas depository bank, and against such shares the depository receipt shall be issued by the overseas depository bank abroad. Voting rights. Now this is very important. The holder of the depository receipt may enjoy the voting rights only when a holder of depository receipts may become a member of the company and shall be entitled to vote as such only on conversion of the depository receipts into underlying shares after following the procedure provided in the scheme and the provisions of this Act. Until the conversion of the depository receipts, the overseas depository shall be entitled to vote on behalf of the holders of the depository receipt in accordance with the provisions of the agreement entered into between the depository, holders of the depository receipt, and the company in this regard. Proceeds of the issue. Now, how the proceeds of the issue has to be there. The proceeds of the issue of depository receipts shall be either be remitted to a bank account in India or deposited in Indian bank operating abroad or any foreign bank which is a scheduled bank under the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. Having operations in India with an agreement that the foreign bank having operations in India shall take responsibility for furnishing all the information which may be required in the event of a sponsored issue of depository receipts. The proceeds of the sale shall be credited to the respective bank account of the shareholders. Depository receipts prior to the commencement Now, in this regard, the first thing has to be there that a company which has issued depository receipts prior to commencement of these rules shall comply with the requirements under these rules within 6 months of such commencement. Number second, any issue of depository receipt after 6 months of commencement of these rules shall be in accordance with the requirements of these rules. Non-applicability of certain provisions of the Act. The provisions of the Act and any rules issued thereunder, insofar as they relate to public issue of shares or debentures, shall not apply to issue of depository receipts abroad. The offer, document by whatever name called, and if prepared for the issue of depository receipt, shall not be treated as a prospectus or an offer document within the meaning of this Act, and all the provisions as applicable to prospectus or an offer document shall not apply to depository receipts, offer document. Another important thing which has to be noted is that notwithstanding anything contained under Section 88 of the Act, until the redemption of depository receipts, the name of the overseas depository bank shall be entered in the register of members of the company. Now, global depository receipts in Indian market. In 2019, SEBI published a comprehensive framework for issuing depository receipts, DRs. Also, the new rules provide easier access to foreign capital via ADRs. ADRs are called as American Depository Receipts, and GDRs, which we are discussing. Companies can now raise funds through foreign sources. Global depository receipts can be issued by a public offering, a private placement, or any other method that is acceptable in the relevant jurisdiction, according to the updated rules. Furthermore, companies who want to issue GDRs must first get permission from Ministry of Finance and Foreign Investment Promotion Board. Clearance must be there. It's a very famous board which is called as FIPB. Difference between ADRs and GDRs. Now, dear students, it is very important that you should understand the difference between ADRs and GDRs, because often they are being confused. Now, let us clear the difference, the distinction between the two. Following are the key difference points between GDRs and ADRs. Now, first of all, basis of difference. Global depository receipts and American depository receipts. These are the basis of difference. GDR is a negotiable instrument issued by a foreign depository bank to an Indian company. Now, what is the meaning of ADR? ADR is again a negotiable instrument issued by US depository bank to an Indian company. Now, another point of difference is relevance. Indian companies can trade in any stock exchange other than US. Now, vis-a-vis ADRs, Indian companies can trade in the US stocks market. Now, where are GDRs issued or where are ADRs issued? This is again the basis of the difference. In case of GDRs, global capital market is there, whereas in case of ADRs, it is the United States capital market. Now, listed, where are these listed? In case of GDRs, non-US stock exchanges, they are listed in non-US stock exchanges. GDRs are issued other than America. Now, in case of ADRs, they are listed only in American stock exchanges like NASDAQ, like New York Stock Exchange. Now, another basis of difference is on the basis of investors. Now, with regard to GDRs, we have mostly institutional investors. But with regard to the ADRs, American Depository Receipt, we have only retail investors. Again, another basis of difference is investor participation. Now, in case of GDRs, we have less in comparison to ADRs, whereas there is more in comparison to GDRs. Let us discuss about liquidity. Liquidity means, the buying and selling. The more buying and selling, if there is more buying and selling, we call the instrument is good. Now, with regard to, GDRs, they are less liquid, but ADRs are more liquid. Now, which are the Indian companies which have so far issued, GDRs and which are trading in the foreign exchanges like London Stock Exchange, Singapore Stock Exchange, Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and on the portal as of July 2020. Now let me read out certain names which is very important for you to know. First company, which is Aditya Birla Capital. It is again, they have issued a GDR and they have issued it on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Ambuja Cement is the second company which have gone for the issuance of GDRs, and they have issued it. This is listed on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Now, Apollo Hospitals, again, their GDRs are listed on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Now, Aptec, which is again a very good company on the Indian scene, they have again issued GDRs on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Aqua Logistics, they have again issued a GDR, again it is listed on Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Axis Bank, which is a very famous bank in India, their GDR issue is, they are on the London Stock Exchange. Bajaj Holdings and Investment, this is again listed on London Stock Exchange. Then we have Barth Forge, it's again listed on, Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Then Barth Hotel, Luxembourg Stock Exchange, listed there, their GDR. Bombay Dyeing, a very famous company, and manufacturing, Bombay Dyeing and Manufacturing, listed at, Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Then you have CG Power and Industrial Solutions. It's again listed at London Stock Exchange. Cipla, which is a very good company as a pharmaceutical company, they have also gone for, GDR issue, and this is listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Dish TV India, in the media company, this is a very important company. This is again listed, their GDRs are listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Then Federal Bank, which is again a bank, which is listed at London Stock Exchange. Then Fenelex Cables. Fenelex Cables is another company which is listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. GAIL, Gas Authority of India Limited, a very famous company. They have also gone for a GDR issue. And remember, this is a government company, and their GDRs are there listed at London Stock Exchange. And then we come to Gresham Industries, a very famous company on Indian soil. They have again gone for, GDR issue, and they are listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Great Eastern energy company, and they are again listed at London Stock Exchange. HDFC Bank, a very famous bank, private sector bank on the Indian soil. They have again gone for the, GDR issue, and they are there at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. So Hindalco Industries, famous company over here, they have again gone for the GDR issue, and they are listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. India Bulls is a housing finance. This is a real estate financing company. They are listed again at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. India Bulls Real Estate, they are listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. India Bulls Securities, they are again listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. IndusInd Bank, very famous bank here on the Indian scene, they are again listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. ITC, Indian Tobacco Company, once used to be called as, now they have diversified in hotels. They're again gone for a GDR issue. Jindal Stainless, the steel company, they are again listed at Luxembourg Stock Exchange. So you have Kerosene Industries listed at London Stock Exchange. So there are a huge number of other industries. For example, Larsen and Toubro, a very famous heavy engineering company, heavy machinery company here on the Indian soil. They are listed at London Stock Exchange. So they are also getting money from foreigners because their GDRs are issued. LIC Housing, LIC is a government, but then they have also gone for a GDR issue, and their issues are listed at London Stock Exchange. Well, dear students, with this we come to the end of today's lecture on GDRs. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Thank you very much.